When it comes to writing software using agentic coding assistants like Claude Code, the better the plan you give it, the better the results you get. TaskDemon uses Claude Code itself to generate detailed plans out of 1 or 2 sentence ticket descriptions. By feeding these detailed plans back into Claude Code, Claude gives us far better results than if we just use the naked vibe prompt. Starting today, the task agent in TaskDemon is able to read and assess plan documents, as well as make edits and even request complete replans from Claude Code. Today I want to show 2 quick examples of tasks that have recently been done in TaskDemon itself to show how this works. The first is token count tracking for message content. In various of the screens of TaskDemon, we have these kind of chat UIs here, which often have a clear chat and a compact chat button, which can help LLM performance if the context window gets too long. But right now we don't have any indication how many tokens are in the context. And so recently I asked the project agent, hey, I want to start counting this, please use tick token. I've already made a new column on the message table, and as a response it made it a new task for me with a simple description based on what I told it in the chat. Now at this point the task agent took over and it went through the normal things that the task agent does. So it triaged the task first of all and decided it's a coding task. And then it made a background document followed by a plan document. So the background document is not the actual plan that we're going to feed into Claude Code later for the implementation. The background document is just to help Claude Code make the right plan document in the first place. So if we go take a look at what this turned out to be, this entire document was generated from a combination of the task description plus the detailed characterization information that TaskDemon has about the project, which in this case happens to be TaskDemon itself. And so because we already ran characterization and because we have continuous characterization now with TaskDemon, TaskDemon itself was able to generate this highly detailed background information document which tells Claude Code, along with the information for the plan that it should make, a bunch of information that's useful and specific to that plan. For example, it knows that we have a message table in our schema. It points out how the data flow works, that we're going to use tick token, that we're using Drizzle for the ORM, how our testing works, how our authentication works, our environment. All this kind of stuff is created into just the background document, which is then fed into the planning prompt, fed into Claude Code when it makes the plan. At that point, we passed over to Claude Code, it made the plan, and a few moments later it submitted it. The plan was successfully completed, and the task agent picked up again. Again, we haven't actually had to do anything here yet so far. Everything has happened autonomously. Task agent picked up the plan, it assessed it, it read it through, assessed it, gave it a very good rating in this case, along with some reasoning if you want to read what the reasoning is. A quick summary of what the plan proposes to do to solve the problem that I gave it, as well as some feedback. And so in this case, because it rated the plan as very good, as opposed to excellent, it had some specific feedback on how we could improve this plan. And this was really useful in this case because it pointed out that there are 2 steps in the plan to do with data migrations, and I don't want Claude Code doing that for me. I tend to do those myself. And so because it read the plan and told me about that, I was able to tell it, no, please take those migration steps out. At this point, Task Agent realized that that is a fairly simple edit that it can make itself, and so it just went and surgically removed those steps out of the plan document. In a moment, we'll look at a different task where we had to go back and do a complete replan using Claude Code. But that takes a few minutes longer as it's involving a full round trip to wherever you're running the TaskDemon CLI agent. So if I want to actually implement this at this point with my updated plan with those removed migration steps, all I've got to do is go and click the copy prompt button. And what that's put on my clipboard now is a prompt that contains the fully updated plan, along with any other instructions that I've given at the project level, the background document, and some additional stuff that goes into the prompt, which you can see when we come into our terminal. If we go and launch Claude, this is exactly how I work. I run Claude, I hit my copy prompt button in TaskDemon, I paste it, I hit enter, and I watch it go ahead and code. And so in this case, you can see we had a 500-line prompt that got sent in, and this is our big old plan document with those edits in. We have the background document up here as well, as well as some other background information that helps Claude Code succeed in getting this implementation done. So that's the first one, and that's going to keep on implementing in the background now while I show you the second of the two tickets, which was this consumption pricing one. So long story short, I'm switching the app to a consumption pricing model, going down to $15 a month and using credits like everyone else does. It seems to make a lot more sense. So I wanted to use TaskDemon to make this change. Normally I use the Project Agent and I just talk to it in natural English and it makes tickets for me. In this case though, I used the new task interface because I had a fairly good idea, a fairly strong idea of exactly what I wanted. So I used that interface and gave it a much longer ticket description than I normally would, because I knew how I wanted credit ledgers to work and various things like that. So you can give it a much more detailed kind of prompt than just some chat message. If we look through again the task agent's chat history here, so first of all we did triage, background document generated, a plan was then generated, great, plan was assessed as being excellent. No specific feedback, but it did again make mention of migration, so I asked it to remove those from the plan. Also, when I actually did review this plan document in its entirety the first time round, and I noticed that it didn't have very detailed code snippets from the Claude Code plan. And sometimes Claude just decides not to give you those. And so this time I asked it, hey, please put the actual code changes in there. And so Task Agent was smart enough to understand that it itself cannot edit the document to make these fixes. It's got to go back to Claude Code and have a full replan done. And so there's no simple inline edits with a before and after word count up here. This was a full replan which caused a second plan workflow. And you can see that that one was at 12:37 and the second one was 15, 16 minutes later. And that's that second plan workflow that was sent down to Claude Code. So once that gets sent back up, again the task agent sees that it got sent up, it goes and assesses the plan again, it told it was excellent. And at this time I actually clicked the copy prompt button and I allowed it to implement this. And that went great, it did everything pretty much exactly how I wanted it to do it, despite it being quite a large ticket. I did notice though, like while I was watching Claude Code scrolling by, doing its thing and reviewing the code afterwards, that there was a bug in what it had done, in that there were certain ways where if you ran out of credits at the wrong time, some task would get into a permanently broken state. And so one of the benefits of having the task agent here is that it has so much context about the project, the task, and the plan for the task that you can have fairly detailed technical conversations with it and understand and pick its brain about how to go about solving them. So in this case, for example, I went back and forth a couple of times with it about using QStash and for backup jobs. And in the end, I said, okay, please make a new task to capture the change that we just talked about, so that we don't have to keep blocking this particular task on that. And Task Agent's able to go to do that for you as well. So the final thing I want to show in here now is that once I've finished this one and clicked the marked implemented button, the Task Agent also picks that up. And the final thing it does is it informs the characterization agent that the task has been completed, and that characterization agent may want to update some aspects of characterization. And it will actually update itself in the task agent as well. So in this case, it tells us that the characterization overview has been updated to talk about the new consumption-based pricing model. It didn't update any of the individual characterization documents. But if we go take a look at characterization now and look at the overview, if we were to search for consumption, yeah, we can see that it has indeed updated the project overview with our consumption-based pricing model, such that next time we make a new task, it will be able to refer back to the fact that we're now using consumption-based pricing. And so, depending on how often you come and look at the characterization page after the first characterization, probably what you're going to mostly see is a series of these task completed messages one by one by one. Sometimes it's going to update the characterization overview itself, other times it's going to update a specific characterization document. But in this way, it's going to keep things up to date every single time that a task is completed, so that it's not just a once and done thing with characterization, but it's continuous characterization. So those are the two new features coming out to TaskDemon today, replanning and continuous characterization. Happy coding.